all, motor refineries have big impacts on the environment. And I don't think in a country where we already have gas flaring, we have low emissions at this rate, we need this more.
Well, Mr. Adigo, let me stay with you. We're looking at the petroleum sector, which is interconnected with the power sector. Power generation peaked at about 5,000 megawatts in February and fell sharply at the beginning of this month to about 1,600. Coupled with the protestations of staff of some of the discos, almost the entire country was plunged into darkness early this week for a few days, about 3-4 days. There was no power anywhere. Gladly, we're not hearing that it is because there's not enough rain and the dams are almost dry. We're now hearing a lot of talk about gas, and this is coming from the petroleum sector. What are your thoughts about gas supply to the power generating companies?
It's still the same issue we talked about, distribution. Gas goes through pipelines. The Forcados pipeline was vandalized about 2 months ago, and there was a Bama2 disruption earlier in December as well. The problem we have is a mixture of politics, infrastructure, and stranded gas. I mean, the government has put a lot of investment in gas as far as I know. There's been a lot of raising the prices. We are at price parity on exports and in imports. But the problem is still, how do you get gas to places that were designed and assigned on political basis, not based on economic basis? Why do you have a Genco in the far north? Why do you have why do you, in a country where you know that people will disrupt things, break down things, put things a distance above 1,000 kilometers? I think we need to, the whole phase needs to be designed. Gas is being worked upon right now. I know there's a lot of work on gas in terms of improving it from 1 million TCF to about 5 million TCF over the next few years. I know there's a lot of work on how you can get investments into gas. I know there's thinking around the unbundling gas from crude, because the way it works right now is you have to have a license to mine crude to get gas, and I think there's a lot of work around that. So we have complicated issues in the sector. One of the things I think we should applaud is what the NNPC tries to do right now with the new 7 divisions is going towards. If we solve our midstream problem in Nigeria, and we can get assets to pre-productive, we'll have more gas. I think, again, the regulators need to be strengthened, either in power, either in oil, either in all areas. I mean, we have weakness of regulations. NEC has been political over the past 1 or 2 years. DPR is not effective. DPR is underfunded. DPR doesn't have enough resources. DPR doesn't have enough manpower. So we live in a situation whereby people are not regulated effectively to do their work.
When you talk about
and the
issues,
burden is always pushed on the consumer.
When you talk about issues of manpower, there are those who would think instead of bringing in more hands, why don't we automate? What do you think about that?
Automation is one way of doing things, and I think there is work on that as well. But again, look at the supply network for automation in a country like this. So we have, you have the MTN issue of not doing what it ought to do because they didn't register enough lines. That's an automated area. Now, when you bring automation into a process where you have challenges of infrastructure, challenges of power, what do you get? Right now, I heard one of the IPMA members saying people are not fiddling with pump and other issues. But it's happening. So automation will happen, but let's get the processes right in place first. The PIB is being worked upon now. I heard the GMD at the press briefing saying he's working with the Senate on the new PIB on governance. That should happen quickly. I mean, the PIB that has been in discussion for the past 10 years, let's get that out of the way. Let's get the PIB out of the way. Let's get that sorted out. Then let's think about those issues around cost of funds in Nigeria, which is one issue people are talking about as well. I mean, the man from the head of the refinery model of refineries talked about naira issues. There is an issue around the disparity in the foreign exchange and the market as well. So everything is interlinked in a long way.
Mr. Adigo, if the PIB is desirable, what do you think is causing the delay to to a point where this thing has been in the offing for about 10 years?
The Nigerian factor, Nigerians being Nigerians, and the fact that it has been ambitious all over the years. You want to review laws that are extant with one bill. I think when we tried in the past to do everything with one single bill, it failed. There are too many interests at play. There are issues around the fiscals, there are issues around the governance framework, there are issues around those communities, there are issues around so many things that you can't do in one breath. I think the new approach right now to break it into parts and do it in bits is a better way of doing things. And I think there's not enough communication on the benefits to people. So people don't know what the PIB brings to people. People don't even understand it. In every discussion you go around, people talk about the framework and not talk about the fact that there's no itself policy environment around it. So the PIB is being talked about. What about what's the policy on energy in Nigeria? I mean, has anybody seen the energy policy for Nigeria for the next 10 years?
Are you implying that
or the policy for downstream efficiency or growth? So we need to talk about things not in abstract. So if the PIB were desirable, like you said, why is it not being passed? Because we're ambitious, we're Nigerians. And there's politics.
Mr. Adigo, from your submission now, are you implying that this restructuring is like a backdoor to the PIB?
My very question.
What I think is that the PIB will give the restructuring more bites. Because he can't unbundle right now because he can't unbundle because the law doesn't allow him to unbundle. Again, let's not forget something again. NNPC doesn't have a board right now. The president is a minister of petroleum, but then there needs to be a board in place to make decisions made by the JMD legal. So that's one part of the process. Second part is, again, is to get these entities efficient, they need to have their own balance sheets. How can you have efficiency when these companies can't go and take money and borrow money? They can't have balance sheets if they don't have a law. The law around the governance framework has to change, and that needs a PIB. So it's a lot of things. So what I think they're working out is the best way within is a lack of clarity.
You say that the GMD can't unbundle.
So if, for instance, there's a PIB now, then we could unbundle. Then you could have NNPC into 10 corporations, we could have an asset holding company, we could have a downstream company effectively, MBDC could go stock market and raise money, then we get more efficiency for the sector on its own.
Yeah, you say that the GMD can't unbundle. Can he restructure?
Yes, the NNPC Act to some extent allows him to do that. But he needs a board to ratify his decision, because I think the NNPC Act says the corporation, which many have interpreted to mean the board, can do things. But again, there's a lot of nebulousness in laws. I'm not a lawyer, but from the framework I understand it to be, the MD has some powers to restructure. It's like any agency of government. Now, the president is the minister and, by law, the chairman of the board of NNPC. So, and the president has wide sweeping powers, as far as I know. Now, what they've done is simply to produce more efficiency, not to say we are unbundling. They still want GMD, or they have no CEOs, or called GEDs, what they call it. So he has that power to what he's done. But I don't think he can achieve his purposes without a change in the framework, which is what the PIB can bring to him, or a board sitting and give him so much more powers.
Okay. Mr. Shotunde, as we wind down, since you're talking about modular refineries and we talked about framework environmental, what role, these refineries, ad hoc refineries in the Niger Delta and in some parts of the country that are being destroyed, considered illegal or illegal as they may be, they're being destroyed by security operatives. What role can they play in this? Because obviously they are refining products.
And people are buying.
People are buying.
And they're not complaining that it's damaging their cars.
Okay.
Should they be legalized? Because they seem to be doing something right somewhere.
I think the position of the law is clear about illegality. And I think whatever they are doing, in one way or the other, it could come into the system as a backdoor operational supply. But notwithstanding, it has adverse effect on your engines. It has adverse, yeah, it is, because when you have an equipment that is configured to distillate this product to the finest level of quality. And then you now apply it into, the sulfur level is still high, and then before you know, you start knocking your engine, you start knocking your generators and the rest. Fine, it could meet that short-term need. But again, do you want to continue? And then you can't imagine you are running a gen, and then all of a sudden the gen goes down because you apply bad fuel and the rest. So it's illegal, but again, there could be a way we can harness this potential of local potential. And that is maybe by the time we come up as a refiner, we come up with these refineries, we can bring them into our workforce and then make sure that you educate them, you make them realize the need for supply and not to do what you call adulterated product supply.
Okay, we have to go now. So I'd like your last word, bearing in mind that we're looking at petroleum and power. Your last word, Mr. Shinkaye.
Well, I want Nigerians to know, as independent marketers, most of the tax given to us are actually not for us. There's no way you will not have a few bad eggs, but that should not translate to our name. I mean, it should not become a permanent logo, as most Nigerians want to do it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Shetunde.
Okay, I think essentially we should appreciate the fact that 80% of the product being supplied into the system now is by NNPC. And given the forex deficits, most of the independent marketers are no longer importing as they ought to. They have the allocation to bring in, but you approach the bank will tell you there is no foreign exchange to assess the product from the international market. So essentially, we can have this scarcity as long as the forex end of the challenge is resolved. Until when we show up our position from there, I think we could still have one or two things. That's why we're saying that encourage the modular refiners, and then at the same time, let us produce to local capacity consumption-wise, and then we can serve as a hub for the African nations.
Mr. Adigo?
I'd like to say that I don't think the challenge is forex access, because I know CBN guarantees access for those importing petroleum products. But I think, again, that it's not as attractive as it was last year, because, again, the margins are much reduced, and NNPC is bringing 90%, not 80%. But then, be that as it may, we have a situation whereby, you know what they call the roundabout effect. If you have a roundabout and one car presses the brake, the passage goes backward for a long time. And as soon as people keep on pressing brakes, then the traffic jam keeps on extending. So what NNPC needs to do is get its acts together and bring enough supply that can take 3 months and anticipate this kind of breakdown. I also think the communication network is very, 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 very poor. People are not being told exactly what is happening on time, and that's creating a lot of panic in the system. And the quicker we move to a full deregulated environment, the better for all of us.
Thank you very much. We have been chatting with Mr. Henry Adigun, oil governance consultant, who joined us from Abuja, a member of the Association of Modular Refineries of Nigeria, Mr. Olufemi Shotunde, as well as the Assistant Secretary, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association.
Former
Assistant Secretary, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Toba Shinkaye. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Sunrise will return with another very interesting subject in just a moment. Make sure you join us.